Hello and welcome to this month's Spirit Talk with me, Jason Paul. Now, this is your opportunity once a month to put your questions directly to the spirit world. Now, if you're new to trance, wondering what trance is, it's a type of mediumship where you go into a much deeper level of consciousness to effectively allow the spirit to communicate through you. So today we have got Niko, the medium, who's been on the podcast several times. He is entering the trance state, and I'm going to be putting some of your questions that you've been emailing in over the last month to the Spirit Collective that Niko is going to channel. So that's going to be very exciting. You're going to hear all about that. So if you do want to get your questions in once a month, very simple. All you need to do is to email me at hello@jasonpaulmedium.com, and I will put your questions directly to the spirit world. Now, there is no question too big or too small. I'll start by saying that your questions could be about this world, the next world, how the two worlds communicate, life beyond the veil, and how to live your full potential in this life. Your questions could be about the soul, they could be about living your true potential, understanding past lives. Honestly, the list really is endless, so let your imagination run wild. I have really seen in the last couple of years the true beauty of trance mediumship and how much the spirit world come through and just really touch the hearts of so many at once, because they really want to help us on our journey. And I've often said in recent times on the podcast that often trance mediumship is something that is kind of reserved behind closed doors for only mediums, for obviously understandable reasons. So this is your opportunity to get your questions answered in this month's February's Spirit Talks.
Greetings to you, my dear one.
Well, hello and welcome, Spirit, to this month's Spirit Talk. I'm very excited because I've got lots of questions. So I'll let you introduce yourself and give us some words to get started. Thank you.
Gratitude is ours, my dear. We are humbled and grateful that you offer this opportunity so that we may be heard, my dear one. And greetings to all who are listening, who are partaking. Our honor and respect bestowed upon each of you. There is a misconception, my dear one, that this form of communication, any modality, which constitutes a connection with essence, is reserved for the few, my dear. Each incarnation is possible, for each one is essence, my dear. And therefore, their essence is always attached to the form. It is not a question of the ability each possesses. It is the question on how to ascertain that ability, my dear. For each and every one throughout their incarnation experiences multiple moments with a threshold to the connection is available to them. And they simply do not notice, my dear. The silence between your thoughts is that passageway. Each one possesses, each one enters, and each one neglects. And this is intentional, my dear. The human identity's main purpose is to continuously create thought. The identity fears silence, perceives the silence between thoughts as losing control, which translates to each one questioning ability. questioning if they are accurate, questioning if it is them or spirit. These thoughts keep reappearing. But once one recognizes the passageway, once one continuously to consciously focus on the silence, through practice and repetition, my dear, the human identity finally relaxes and accepts that silence as safety. And once that occurs, one notices the effortless connection through awareness to essence, not merely their own, but to each loved, lost, to each essence guiding them, and most certainly to their highest essence. But the connection is not within the physical reality, my dear. It is through the shared awareness into the human consciousness field, my dear. So this passageway is always open. It is merely misunderstood. Is that clear, my dear one?
It is. Thank you. That's very interesting. And I guess it very nicely leads me on to one of the first questions, if I may.
Indeed, my dear.
And this comes in firstly from Leanne in New Zealand. She's asking, why does the ego kind of fear silence, which ties in nicely to what you've just kind of said? Why, if we're born as a human, we know these things when we're born. Why is it we start learning all these things that are stopping us, I guess?
My dear, notice that the child, the toddler, prior to its identity being shaped, it is very attuned. It does not yet possess language. It is very attuned to its own awareness, my dear. Notice it is quite cautious within its movements. If the forgetfulness did not appear within incarnation, each of you would navigate through your physical journeys with caution. You would avoid relationships, remembering that pain is inevitable. The forgetfulness, my dear, is quite intentional in order to experience each moment as the human incarnation, deeply rooted within the human experience. It is not the pain. It is not the experience, the moments, nor even the dynamics of the relationships which excel the growth and evolution of your essence. It is the wisdom born of all. Wisdom born of the multiple shades that pain projects. But as that toddler, my dear, continues to possess silence between thoughts, this never fades. It is merely obscure. It is not to place focus on ego as it is the entire identity, my dear. For even as that child continues to engage in relationships, educational levels, religious beliefs, its own experience navigating through their human journey, not only is the mind crafted, conditioned, formed, that is what leads to the conditioning of one's identity. The perception is that the ego is separate, but it is complete with the identity, my dear. For each identity, each ego, its lessons are all separate and individual, based on how their human incarnation has been designed. But this does not dilute that each is essence. Each still possesses the stillness between thoughts throughout their physical day. Each possesses the ability to remember one's essence, just as they did when they were younger, beginning their journey. The same applies when one reaches the end of their physical journey. Once more, that silence between thoughts is prominent. Once more, they are reconnecting, if you will. Once more, a sense of ease washes over them, tranquility and safety as they prepare. But notice, a silence between thoughts never leaves one's journey, just as one's essence never leaves them throughout their journey. Is that clear, my dear?
Very interesting. Thank you. James in Dublin in Ireland asks, do our loved ones in spirit know when we think of them, and how do they experience time compared to us?
My dear, allow us to begin that time is an illusion within your reality, which makes the physical experience a reality. Time is offered through many layers of evolution, my dear. Not only the timeline that you are privy of, but as time is a concept, an illusion, it is quite easily shaped, bent, adjusted. So a timeline can split into 2 or 3 parallel timelines within the same reality. Notice, my dear, a difficult decision you perhaps struggled with altered the trajectory of your timeline, which you still insist on. With the decision over 2 possibilities, and the trajectory split at that decision-making moment, there is another timeline coexisting, overlapping yours, which you are not privy of, which is offering new possibilities, all for the same development of one's essence. Your essence does not depart from a realm and enter another realm. So the question, if their loved ones listen to their thoughts, is incomplete, for that eludes the separation to the thought that their essence has departed. Each essence, my dear, is interconnected eternally. Even as we are communing, my dear, it is not physical form to physical form. It is essence to essence, portrayed through the physical vessels. This is what many have not yet grasped fully. And they continue to lean on the concept of separation. But this is the religious teachings of your realm. The essence of their loved ones are always interconnected with them, my dear. It is shared thoughts, but not all thoughts originate of the identity. Thoughts are also transplanted through one's highest essence through telepathy, my dear. There is always an interconnectedness. There is always an understanding of one's journey through physical incarnation, where the identity remains clueless, if you will, as is the intention. You are a projection of your essence. The breath is the interface of your essence into the physical form's energy. They maybe perceive this complex architecture to the human intellect, for it is due to the fact that the human intellect has minimal comprehension, my dear. Which is why there is forgetfulness in your realm. But the essence recalls the architecture fully, for it is the architecture itself. There is no separation, my dear. Once more, And one is attempting to connect with a lost loved one, my dear. One must simply focus on the silence between their thoughts. And they will receive memories, visions, conversations, thoughts, new thoughts, which is that loved one communicating with them. Communication never ceases. It is merely the human identity which ceases seeking. Is that clear, my dear?
Very interesting. Again, thank you. Louise in Brighton in the UK says, why do some souls choose difficult lives? For instance, people being born into war zones, people who have trauma, and is suffering part of a plan or a misunderstanding?
My dear, once more, this question is focused on a singular human incarnation. And it is also viewed from the belief of a singular identity, which is normal, acceptable, based on that theory, my dear. But through that lens, one is still unaware that what they view as a difficult incarnation is merely but one. As mentioned earlier, as time is an illusion, realities overlap. Your timeline portrays a certain year, and what you consider your past is also a current year, simultaneously occurring within the same realm. This enables the essence to navigate more than one physical incarnation, my dear. One perhaps may be designed with difficulty and suffering and pain, and the other is designed with happiness and love, compassion, generosity. It is still the same essence experiencing each incarnation, merely through different vessels, different timelines, different purpose. It is the accumulation of all human incarnations, of all wisdom born of each and every moment, which is difficulty, which focuses on how they react. When each remembers their essence, it is the accumulation that enables one's highest essence to truly evolve, my dear. Which is why the essence would never focus on merely one incarnation. So as they perceive difficulty in one's journey, they are unaware of what other journeys that essence is also navigating through. Is that clear, my dear?
It's really interesting. I'd like to ask a follow-up question for myself, which leads very nicely into a question that Sukina from Birmingham in the UK is asking, which is a big question in itself. One of the fears of us here in the human existence is with our loved ones. When we go back to the spirit world, if we are living, separate existences in different parallels, how does that kind of work? And also, Sukina asks, are we individual souls having separate experiences or expressions of one shared consciousness exploring itself? Big question.
When you perceive as a lost loved one, my dear, you are perceiving it through that one relationship you have engaged with within this one incarnation. The essence of that loved one is also present in multiple incarnations simultaneously, each engaged through different roles. So one may long the loss of a parent, and in another reality, that is a sibling. Within another reality, their spouse. Within another reality, their foe or their rival. It is still the same essence, my dear. Recollection of the relationships portrayed is not remembered. It is the essence, the bond of love, the honor, the respect, the shared evolution, my dear. that continues eternally. For there are many incarnations, many roles. It is impossible to focus on merely one, which equates to why the relationship roles are not vital, but they appear quite vital to the human identity. That is the first misconception, my dear. One may love their spouse on a deeper level than their friend, and yet one may experience the same intimate connection with a stranger they briefly encounter for a moment. This is shared recognition of essence, my dear. Perhaps the stranger within one timeline is the spouse in another. It is not meant for the identity to remember, but as one remembers their essence much more profoundly, one is also privy to glimpse parallel realities, my dear. Each essence is part of a shared consciousness field, the infinite field of consciousness. It is where the origin of each essence is created by the Creator, my dear. So it is not merely your essence growing, evolving, learning through each physical incarnation. It is shared knowledge transmitted into that field of consciousness, where even essences who are not incarnated benefit and learn. Notice, my dear, we who come forth to commune with you today are also within that infinite field of consciousness. And yet we do not incarnate, my dear. But we are learning. We are growing as each essence experiences incarnation. It is a shared consciousness indeed. It is one love indeed. It is a shared breath, if you will, my dear. The breath of the Creator, if you will, my dear. Once more, difficult to comprehend as a human identity, but the human identity has been conditioned to all in your reality. Notice, my dear, prior to the religious institutions, governmental agencies seeking control, prior to their existence, the earlier state of humanity recognized the importance of breath, the importance of essence, the remembrance of something more, if you will. For even as their identity was conditioned, it was not conditioned to the degree it is in your reality at this time. Which also explains why each of your species recognizes a shared global, expansive awakening, if you will. An expanded awareness occurring. Many are simply confused, but deep within recognize that they resonate with what is altering in your reality. This constitutes the projection of humanity, my dear, to once more reach the degree of open awareness it originated from. Is that clear, my dear?
Very much so. Thank you. We've got an interesting question from Michael in London, which is, when a spirit comes through to talk through mental mediumship, when a loved one moves over to the spirit world, what is that process looking like from your side, that communication? And is it difficult on your side for spirits to communicate to us through mediums?
Recognize, my dear, the words utilize mental mediumship. This equates to the human identity's mind. Once more, a misinterpretation of the connection, my dear. It is not a matter of a spirit entering your reality. Essence communicates with essence in that shared field of consciousness, my dear, known in your reality as the human consciousness field. This is your inner field, if you will, my dear, which surrounds the physical forms. Many have misinterpreted this inner field, have misjudged it, and claim it as the auric field known in your realm, which is indeed the outer layer which surrounds the human consciousness field, my dear. Essence impressions enter into the auric field. One's highest essence is the guardian, if you will, allows the essence impression to enter the auric field, intentional, to offer healing, to offer guidance, to offer trust, compassion to the one who is perceiving their suffering through loss. Once this impression, my dear, enters the auric field, it merges into the human consciousness field. Each identity within the silence between thoughts we mentioned previously is able to enter into their awareness, my dear. This is not the conscious mind. This is the awareness, a shared awareness with one's highest essence. And this allows them to remain active within that human consciousness field. And this is where those impressions are received, felt, understood, acknowledged, trusted. But most of the teaching in your realm does not focus on this structure, this architecture. And rather than reporting what one noticed within this consciousness field, the identity refers to translate. And this is when it becomes mental. This is when it becomes diluted through their interpretation, my dear. This is when they narrate, when they make the message their own, rather than honoring the mere fact that they are serving as a vessel, not the interpreter. This structure, my dear, of how impressions are transmitted applies to each modality. One where they bring forth the message of a loved one, as well as this form of communication, my dear. It is the same process through the outer layer and the inner layer, into that silence between the thoughts, into awareness. This is constant. This does not change. What changes is the human identity's interpretation. This also focuses on the instability of accuracy. And because the accuracy fluctuates, so the identity is translating and focusing on how they will be perceived. Humanity does not truly support and believe that this communication is possible. But the more people's awareness expands, my dear, the more one focuses on that silence between thoughts. They should not perceive that their ability drastically changes. What should be accepted is that they finally have accepted their role as the vessel within your reality. Is that clear, my dear?
Thank you. And we have time for one more question, which has come in from Naomi in Boston, Massachusetts. Thank you, Naomi. What actually happens at the moment of a human death? What does consciousness experience first when the body stops?
It is a form of communication, my dear. It's a mirror reflection of what occurs when the human experience comes to its completion, my dear. There are no longer thoughts. There's only that silence between the thoughts. And that silence between the thoughts, my dear, opens a threshold within that consciousness field we mentioned. The interface of the breath also returns into that consciousness field. The entire consciousness field, my dear, which was created solely for the incarnation, returns to the portion of one's essence which holds all memory of incarnations. This portion of one's essence is known in your reality as the oversoul, my dear. The human consciousness field, a portion of the essence which attached to the physical form, it returns there. It is stored. It is remembered. The highest essence, my dear, remains intact until all parallel incarnations also cease. So when one allows their identity to accept that the silence between the thoughts is safe, one is able to sustain their focus into this field of shared awareness, where there is lapse of time, recognizing one's physical form and breath evaporates. There is no here nor there. They are still. They are at peace. They sense profound unconditional love. And they remember not only their essence, but the entire architecture. Is that clear, my dear?
Thank you. And thank you so much for your time, energy, and answering some of the listeners' questions. And until this time next month, I'll let you close this month's Spirit Talk. And thank you again, Spirit, for coming through.
And once more, my dear one, the gratitude is truly ours. We welcome the questions. We honor the questions. But also keep in mind, my dear, these are questions which originate through the human identity. But your essence already possesses each answer to each question. We are simply not providing an answer. We are guiding each of you to remember essence in order to find your own answers within. One must begin by trusting their essence. And if one trusts their essence, then their identity will eventually trust the silence. And that is the beginning to the return. I thank you, my dear one.
Thank you. Well, there we go. That is it for this month's Spirit Talks. Now, do remember, I need questions. I need your inspiration, my darling listener, so you can get your questions into my email address, which is very simply in the show notes, in the description, or you can take it down now. It's hello@jasonpaulmedium.com. That's Paul spelled Paul. It's been an absolute delight. There was some real interesting questions there, and it got me thinking a lot, and it's such an honour to have the Spirit World come through to grace us with their presence, and they're going to be doing it all over again next month. But as always, lots of love. I hope your week goes well, and until next time, goodbye.